Hi, Tom. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, Mike.
Uh, Welcome back. This is Tom and ML here. Welcome back to the First, the Last, and the Nerdom, the podcast where we quest through the strange, the legendary, and the wonderfully nerdy worlds of film. And this week, Fantasy Month continues with the journey into a cult classic. Excuse me, that dared to mix swords, sorcery, and sci-fi spectacle. The 1983 epic Krull. Part fairy tale, part space opera, Krull tells the story of Prince Cowan, a hero destined to save his bride and defeat the sinister beast, a creature who commands an army of alien slayers and welds destruction from a fortress that moves across the stars. Along the way, we get shape shifting allies, seers, cyclopses with tragic fates, and of course, the film's most iconic weapon, the mystical five bladed Gaive. Though Krull stumbled at the box office, it carved out a legacy as a cult favorite. Thanks to its bold, world building, sweeping score, the kind of wild genre mashup only the 80s could deliver, some call it camp, others call it classic. But one thing's for sure there's nothing else quite like it. So grab your guide, beware the slayers, and prepare the quest across the strange lands and stranger creatures. Because this week on the First, the Last Nerdom, Fantasy Month rolls on with a one of a kind adventure that is Krull. Good
Yes,
grief.
definitely.
Yes, yes, sir. Yeah. So we're gonna get into that here momentarily, and we'll get to the plugging. But I have got to find my bearings here. Apologize. Why do I not have that? I don't have that plugged in. Sorry, I had my notes for the for the show here, and I completely went to go read them, go find them, and they weren't there. So that doesn't work. And I was gonna say glaive. Jesus Christ. See, sorry, I was looking at my. All right. Well, shame on me for not being tip top. Anyway, let me drop into our
Nice.
shared screen, and we are doing this live here too, by the
hmm
way. So
hmm
as we share this thing out. Well,
It's not
Tom,
Memorex, it's live.
yeah, absolutely. F it. We'll do it live. So
Yeah.
we finally, after years and years of me promising the audience, we finally got our website up and going here. So bear with us here. There's a little bit of under construction for as we expand it out, but it exists. So we are
Yes.
the first last nerdum. And I'll get to our home base here, but just want to kind of show off our fancy new website here, including
Mhm.
bios and links and all that stuff. And look for a blog soon, maybe a newsletter. We'll see. But that's all ours. And of course, with our new home base on the interweb. And oh, by the way, that was firstlastnerdom.com. So easy peasy. But you can also find us here. Other main home base will always be our home base. Home away from home, so to speak. The YouTube. Where you can find all of our latest ones, including the one that's going out now that's live. And I want to say too, Tom, what's going on with Reddit here? What is this Reddit thing?
Yeah, first last nerdum. I'm on Reddit, promoter stuff where we can. Yeah, last week we talked about the Black Cauldron, Disney movie. Yeah, it's interesting. They rejected us on our slash Disney Plus, but our slash Disney gave us the thumbs up. I was kind of surprised. It even passed the admin. You it doesn't get posted until admin looks at it. So admin said, "Oh, yeah, that's good."
Well, that's
So
good.
yeah, it really depends on which subreddit you tackle. So yeah. But yeah, yeah, you check me out there if you come over from Reddit. Hello. But yeah, I'm also on X. I promote our stuff there, our latest videos, and then also if I find something I fancy, if you refresh the page there, you'll see I just posted a little review of a graphic novel I just read called Fatal. So definitely check that out. It's an
Oh,
interesting mix of the old trope of neo noir or film noir, the film Fatal. They take that and mix it in with Lovecraftian cosmic horror, and you get a very interesting story. So check that out. That's from Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips.
Awesome.
But yeah, yep, you can check me out there. And you're also on X as well.
Yes, sir, I am. Yep, I am also on X. You can catch me and Tom having a conversation here or there. Haven't had one in a minute, but I'm sure we will here shortly. But ApeIt_Inc. You can also find me on as co-host to the Cafe Sunday News Show every Sunday. We did take a break this week because it is Labor Day weekend. And our main host, Professor Kenny, was stepping in and doing the morning all week in lieu of two-way. But I also write a long form. I have a long form website, home base for me, ApeIt.Ink. Feel free to peruse there. And of course, as always, our brand new spanking website, which Tom was very patient with me to have me finally get it up. And we did try permutations of this. I try to make other things that are not classically a website to be like more of a community thing. And that was okay. But it's just a little bit too weird. So, but we'll have that. We have that up, and you can find us. But here we are with Krull. I I really enjoyed this one, and I got to say the reason why I did. And we've kind of talked around this movie for a while now. I think it's been we've maybe not mentioned it per se, but we definitely have done a drive by here or there when it
It's
comes
been
to.
baking in the oven.
Yeah, yo, for sure. Like, well, I mean, we've seen a lot of '80s films lately, and they're just great.
Mm-hmm.
And this one,
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen some of it a little bit, but not all the way through before now. What about your background with this one?
Yeah, it's yeah, I was excited about seeing this movie. It was kind of hyped up at the time, and the thing was there was I sent you a link to article about the cinema I actually went to see it at is Cinema 150. That was in Little Rock. There's if you scroll down, you'll see the picture of it. It's a big dome, and it had one screen, a 70-foot wide screen that was curved around the dome. That was like the premier place to see a movie. That was like top movie, and sometimes they would get exclusives where that was the only place you could see the movie, and I guess they had high hopes for Crawl because they showed it there. I remember seeing one of the Indiana Jones movies there, and that was very very special. So, um, normally at the local theater in my neighborhood, my parents could drop us off and we could watch a movie and then head back home. But yeah, to actually go to this place, and and it's since been torn down, unfortunately, and I think it closed in early 2000s and was torn down in 2015. I don't know why they wouldn't want to restore that, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, so to go to this place, you kind of I had to talk at least one of my parents into taking us, and for them to set through it. Also, my sisters couldn't stay home, so I had to talk my sisters into seeing it as well. So I had to do a lot of fast talking. Said, this is gonna be a big movie, da, 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 and so I somehow I got them talked into it, and it was the whole day thing. Would go off to Little Rock, and we would they had like the little bookstores around there, and we got to do that and do lunch and everything. But so the movie had a lot of pressure on me. I don't know about you, but whenever you talk someone into watching a movie with you or seeing a movie, you have that added pressure of them enjoying it as well. You kind of have, and
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
watching Kroll, I just remember that it was the very first time I got that feeling of if they don't like it, they're gonna get mad at me for forcing them to come see this. And so yeah, my feelings were kind of mixed when I first saw Crawl because because I had and I could sense that my
The extra pressure.
rest of my family wasn't really digging the movie.
Right.
So it was always kind of a conflict with me. Is this good? Is it bad? Um, but yeah, so yeah, that's my little story about Krull. So I didn't actually revisit it until much later, when actually there's like a cool Mill Creek did a release of it a few years back, where it looks like a videotape.
Okay.
Look like a
Pretty cool.
yeah, they did a little, and you can see the back of the tape there, and then that's just the slipcase, and then you have the actual movie there. But it's kind of cool. It's got the little stickers that
Would have
you
been
would
on there.
find on an old videotape.
Oh
So yeah,
man, it takes me back.
very cool. But yeah, Mill Creek did a series of those, and Serial at Midnight. That channel, they did a little promo for them about these. I think they were sold at Walmart. I got a handful of these back in the day. But yeah, kind of cool packaging, but it's just the basic movie on here, and I don't know if these are still available. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's how I revisit it. So I rewatched it a few years ago. I was like, it's not a bad movie. It's a decent movie, and then I watched it again for this time. But yeah, so I do have a history with it from since it was made. But yeah, it was one of those movies that, the first time where it should have been a huge hit, and it
Right.
wasn't, and it was a flop. And back when you're a kid, you kind of associate, you want your movies to do well, and the fact that it was a flop, and that I forced my family to go see it. They weren't real keen on it. It was like one of those movies where it's like, maybe I shouldn't like it, maybe I should. It was one of the first times I had those conflicting emotions with a movie. And also I like that glaive that he had, but he barely uses it in the movie. But we'll get more into that
Oh yeah. Yes,
as we
sir. Yeah.
discuss it.
Yeah. So I had no. I mean, like I had mentioned, I'd kind of seen parts of it. I was loosely familiar with it or whatever. And obviously, doing this thing like where we talk about these things, you become a lot more familiar with some
Mhm.
things like. And this was no different. So I really did. So it struck me as much more Dune. It had shades of Dune. It had shades of
Yes, I
Star
did it.
Wars.
Hmm.
Definitely had Dune. And so from that standpoint, I loved it.
Hmm.
But kind of going to
Yeah, the
kind of
whole the whole beginning of it that had the
oh,
whole
it's
real
epic.
big Dune
Uh,
vibe.
uh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
never noticed that until this time, and
Yep.
yeah, we hadn't talked about this beforehand, but
No.
yeah, I definitely had those vibes as well.
Yeah, and I get it. And Peter Yates was the director, and
Hmm.
he very very famous. He did Bullet, was that famous Steve McQueen car chase.
Hmm.
And then he also he got an Oscar nomination for Breaking Away. So this is a director who knows his stuff, right?
Hmm.
So you kind of see that you can tell he was aiming, he was swinging for the fences. Um,
Yeah.
Now, how it was received, well, I think Tom gave a
Hmm.
little bit of foreshadowing, and with some of the words that he used. I'll put it that way. But it's got everything. It's got lasers. It's got space. Swords that go ping and do light and stuff. It's got a really cool a big ass throwing star. you know, you got people that are the magic. They move in and out of this thing with magic. I love how they don't tell you. You're just kind of seeing this, and then you're seeing the. It kicks off pretty quickly too. I gotta say. Unlike Dune, I would say, Dune didn't really kick off quite like that. It kind of started and stopped, and wouldn't say stalled out, but this also had a lot going on for a 2 hour film, but it didn't feel like 2 hours. It felt like it went by fairly quickly. There's some rough parts in there a little bit, but that might be just down to it being from the 80s, 1983, as you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
yeah. A lot of cool visual effects, and special effects in this movie as well. It's a visually interesting movie. A lot of interesting style choices. Every every moment, like this, like the castle at the beginning, very cool looking. The princess gets kidnapped, and the whole fortress that the beast has is very interesting. Like the chamber that she's in is shaped like an eye, and then there's like a clawed hand at one point that she's running around in. The visual choices that they make are very interesting in this movie.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and Lisette, she was 17 when this, and they, I believe, didn't they dub her? They do this a lot. They do this too
Yeah,
much in the 80s. They don't like your voice, they dub
yeah.
it, and it's I.
Well, they she's British, and they thought, well,
Oh,
Americans would appreciate an American princess,
sure.
so they dubbed her voice with an American voice lady. They also dubbed the guy, the one of the band of thieves. I forget his name. He's also Hagrid in um the Harry Potter movies. Let's see, what is his name?
Yeah, but you know,
Robbie Coltrane. Robbie
okay, Robbie
Coltrane.
Coltrane.
They dubbed his voice as well.
Okay, okay, yep, there he is. Yep,
Yep. A
yeah,
lot of good actors in this one. You got Liam Neeson in it as well.
yep. Yep. I
Yep.
was gonna say you're right on you're right on the ball. Yeah, Peter Yates did this one. Known for a wide assortment. I don't know. I should have done a little bit more research, but I do wonder if that way, if you know, and I'm sure you'll probably have a better insight into this. But what was his relationship with this movie after it was released? Was it positive? Was it negative? Because sometimes, like I mentioned, Dune, and of course we all know David Lynch. He visionary. He had a not so great positive relationship with his.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, when they were making the movie, the I guess their original idea was to they wanted to make a, Dungeons and Dragons movie, which I read where the guy who created Dungeons and Dragons said that they never approached him about the rights to doing it. So obviously they were going to do a knockoff of Dungeons and Dragons, and
right.
things have kind of changed along the way. Evidently, the beast, the bad guy in it, was going to be a dragon, and it was going to be called the Dragons of Krull. But he got changed to more of a kind of lizard-like creature, very interesting looking creature guy. But yeah, and then Peter Yates was pulled on. I think he was interested in doing a fantasy movie, and all that it entails. I didn't read anything about what he thought of it after the movie, but I know during the movie it was so taxing, and he got fed up with it. He went to the Caribbean for a week. He just took a vacation during the middle of filming, and so they stopped the production on it for
Okay.
a little while, so he could, I guess, recharge his battery, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, you have you have this thing, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Return of the Jedi also didn't that also come out in '83 as well?
Yeah, it did.
So
It did.
this
Yeah.
kind of had the deck stacked against it. This is trying to be the new thing. It's very hard to be the new thing when the old thing is still new. And people were literally, you know, waiting for Return of the Jedi. I know that was true for Empire as well. Um,
I know the actress wasn't happy with it, Lisette Anthony, because I think in the original, in one of the variations of the script, she was supposed to her character was supposed to kind of turn evil
oh, okay,
towards the end of it, and she felt that that was more of an interesting take for it, as opposed to the more traditional type ending. And she was kind of upset with that, and also with the overdubbing of her of her voice as well. She
not
wasn't
happy
happy with
camper.
that.
No, and I don't
Yep.
blame her. I don't, you know that, but you know you have this glaive, you have the teleporting fortress, the elements of space. You know we're going sideways in a medieval kind of time. You have a little bit of a political thing a little bit, like kind of like
Hmm.
Dune. Although it's
Hmm.
Dune, it's a lot more apparent. This one, it kind of takes a little bit more of a more. It's more subtle. They don't spend too much time on it. Um, but you have that. You have that. That's why just the opening, it just reminded me so much of Dune, and what could have been
Hmm.
for this franchise had it not been a little bit better. Now, now, what was the budget for this, and how does that compare with '80s films at the time?
Yeah, it was like I think 30 million, which was quite a bit of change. That I think we were talking about the Black Cauldron, and it was around that as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
So
Yeah,
very very
pretty high.
expensive, and then yeah, and then I think the box office for it was like 16 million. So
Ooh,
it
yeah,
barely it kind of made half of what what was spent on it, and yeah, so it's obviously a flop.
right.
And yeah, it's interesting how, yeah, I like how not a lot of stuff is explained. You're kind of like dropped into
Yep,
this world,
yep,
and yeah, you just have to kind of roll with the punches. A lot of one of the things I don't like about fantasy is the fact that a lot of times they over-explain things.
right.
They want you to completely understand. They work so hard on this world. They want you to understand it, and they maybe explain it a little too much. Whereas this movie, it's sort of you're kind of shooting from the hip. And again, we might have kind of glossed over the story. The story's this alien creature called the Beast. He brings his fortress, which looks a bit like a mountain. He kind of blasts through the stars, so it does have a science fiction element to it.
Yep,
He lands on this planet, and he has his personal army of slayers,
right.
and they're going to take over this world. And the way they're going to do it is still the princess, and he's going to marry her. So evidently that's going to help him take over the world. I don't know. And so the he interrupts the wedding between the young prince and the princess, and before they could finalize their wedding vows, which involve water and fire,
Yep,
an interesting kind of combination.
it is.
And so yes, the prince, he has to he's wounded, but he recovers, and he teams up with this old wise, maybe wizard, maybe not. I don't know exactly what he is. And they go on a journey, like all good fantasy stories,
And the
to cross
adventure
the land to the fortress. Yeah.
and the adventure begins. No, it does. And they kind of gloss over. You could easily see like where if this were made today, there's probably a version of it floating around there that would be 3 hours long. One that kind of goes into a little bit more backstory on these people have magic powers. You see them, and then you go move very quickly through that. So they don't spend too much time explaining all this stuff like you mentioned, which I think is more positive than negative, because of what we're getting as far as the the
And
the glaive, and it's, well, you don't get that right off the bat, but you see these, I wouldn't say plot devices, but you see these kind of these props that are pretty important, and they're like, huh, they don't, they do it the old way of like signaling these are important, they'll come in the picture later, but they don't like kind of, it's
Mhm.
right there. Do you see it? It's in your face. Not like that. Not like modern. Like, and they also tell you about it too. Like
Mhm.
they do. And then you have him, wander along, and of course there's a little bit of the bait there, like where it's like, you know, are you a little boy? Are you this prince? This king? Now you're the
Yeah,
king.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right, yep.
And they did take a little bit of time to build that up a little bit. And you see that in
Hmm.
the thing. What is it? Yeah, Ken Marshall did a good
Kid
job.
Marshall, yep.
Yeah, he did a really good job, honestly.
Hmm.
I I thought he was like where Tom Cruise was a little bit more mellow and not as
Hmm.
much as you would want Tom Cruise to be.
Hmm.
His Ken's persona kind of comes through pretty
Yeah,
strongly.
his charisma, yeah. Got strong charisma, yep.
Yep.
I think it's time to crack open the official Boomer Juice monster. But yeah, it's yeah, I liked most of the characters. When I was a kid, I remember really enjoying the shapeshifter guy. He adds the comedy element to the story.
Right.
He's always about those gooseberries and getting a gooseberry pie. I did learn some interesting things about gooseberries. I was watching a podcast where they were discussing gooseberries a couple of days ago, which is kind of crazy that then it shows up in this movie. It was
Right.
weird, those synchronistic the kind of things that happen. But gooseberries are named that because they use that with uh when they cook and serve goose. They pair well together,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's how they got their name gooseberries. And the interesting thing about gooseberries is that they're I guess the makeup of the berry, it's very toxic to goose or geese. So it's deadly for geese to eat it. So it's very interesting that, that you pair gooseberries with the goose
That
because
is
it's
fun.
their mortal enemy.
Right. That is fun. Yeah, it kind of goes. I guess the summation that I would give would be, as we get into it and we start uncovering what works and what didn't. Um, this is a film that shouldn't work, but it does. It's like I mentioned before, it's a little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of Dune, Lord of the Rings, prog rock album, you have that in, you throw it in a blender and serve it up with a little bit of British campiness, a little bit, but dead on seriousness from everybody involved. You don't get that. Nobody winks at the camera or
Yeah.
breaks the wall. That all are very serious. And you know what? It works.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, not and like I was saying, I enjoyed the shapeshifter. That was one of my favorites when I was a kid. I also like the kid and the Cyclops. I like
oh yeah,
dynamic between those three. And usually, a kid in a story is usually the annoying part of it.
right.
But the kid in this was actually pretty decent. He could act, and he was an interesting character within this group. And that I like the touching kind of bond between him and the shapeshifter guy.
Yeah, we're
Like when he became a puppy to to it was kind of a weird relationship with
yeah, yeah.
him
You
becoming a
you
puppy to comfort the kid.
yeah, you had your standard sidekicks. You had your Yoda type, your Obi-Wan, your you know, even to a certain degree, a little bit of I am your father kind of thing going on, but not, you know, it's just very interesting how quickly they go in. And of course, you have these, slayers or whatever, that are very reminiscent of Dune for me. And I'm sure everybody was doing the baddies. Everybody but Star Wars were doing it, but they were doing it in white, and they were, stormtroopers, I guess would be the equivalent, but competent fighters nonetheless, versus that.
Yeah,
Um,
very interesting when they die and that their weird kind of
oh God,
scream and the kind of the weird little creatures that come
oh
out of
yeah,
them when they die.
oh it's so gross. It's like somebody vomiting out their stomach or something gross. Like that's kind of the point of there's a natural repulsion there, that you are met with many, many, many times, as the film progresses here. I'm just kind of flipping through whatever's available on IMDb here. But yeah, like he did a great. I did enjoy him in the film, but of course, he's not the only one, and there's kind of like this little, not quite Han Solo kind of thing. I mean, they almost fit in and shoebox some things here that work. You also kind of had a love. You had three love, or well, mainly two, I suppose, would be what the wise old man and his Francesca.
Spider Woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Up and of course, the thing is that this is definitely 80s, because it's as the adventure unfolds, they're like, you kind of like, well, where do they go next? And then all of a sudden they're talking about how the glaive is up on top of the mountain at the topmost part of the mountain, and there's a cave, and you just go in, and there it
It's got to
is.
reach through the you have to reach through the lava jelly.
Right, right. Yeah. Which is like, makes it's like, well, if it's just kind of sitting there, then who wouldn't go? Okay, so they had to add the lob. Anyway, it works. And then, of course, you kind of had to go on a rambling little journey, a little trek off to the side, like where hijinks ensue, including some, quicksand, or grape nuts, I don't know, swamp, uh,
Yeah. Mhm.
swamp floor.
Yeah, one of the things that it's kind of interesting, and is that that the fortress moves every day, so you never know when it's going to show up, and they have to go to this wizard to find out, and he's the only one that knows where the fortress is going to
Right.
be, and it's very dangerous to
True.
get to him and everything, way too dangerous. You get to him, and then spoiler alert, something happens to him, and then oh, but there is one other way
Right. Right.
that I failed to mention, and it's dangerous as well.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, that also there were special effects, but there were mostly done practical effects as well too. I mean, um, there are a couple that kind of don't age so well. That's toward the end of the film.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, and it also, I think that if this were maybe a little, this is a rare thing to say. I would say, because I don't like to have super long movies that don't need that length. But if this could have had like maybe another 10 minutes, maybe they could have smoothed some of that stuff out. Like what the
Mhm.
the glaive, it looks cool. But also,
Yeah.
by the way, it's kind of like when you're a kid and you have your action figures, and
Mhm.
here's the bad guy and the good guy, and then it's like, oh no, the bad guy is like whooping the crap out of the good guy, and then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I also have a special power of fire. Or I can
Yeah.
control this thing by just with my mind, and cut you in half,
Mhm.
blah blah blah. But it kind of
Yeah.
it kind of plays out like a very large kind of play set, like as the adventure,
Mhm.
in a very enduring and good way is what my point is here. But it, it does get campy, I think, is what I was looking for before, when I was thinking like
Mhm.
where they could have done a little bit more time explaining this or that, or kind of weaving it in maybe a little bit better, a little tighter
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
firmer. But for the most part, it works. It works.
Yeah, and it's interesting that a lot of these fantasy movies, especially that they're kind of aimed towards kids, most of the good guys survive, whereas in this movie, there's a good sized body count in this one. That the king's guys, the thieves don't make it out too well
Yeah. No,
for the most part.
they didn't shy away from, well, what was this rated? This was like, yeah, a PG. Yeah.
PG, yeah,
Yeah. But they're again, this goes back to the 80s. Some things are not as soft. It's not,
yeah.
the sensibilities are there, but it's also like, unlike modern film, this people are they make do with what they have, much more frugally and economically than today. Like today it'd be,
Yeah.
I don't know, it would be so, practically like everything but like a flashing arrow that this is the main character, or that they're,
Yeah.
whatever, they're in. But this works very well, and again,
There's a yeah,
there's
a
a lot of
young
actors.
Hagrid there.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Young young Hagrid there before he met Harry Potter.
yeah. Oh man, yep.
I
You just,
really I really love the Cyclops reel. He shouldn't work. The look of him shouldn't work, and he should be goofy, but he kind of
no,
works.
it
He
does
works.
work.
I like his, and I like this the Cyclops are one of the things that they kind of get into the backstory of, and it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting that they used to have two eyes, and then they gave one eye to be able to see the future, and they were cursed because the only future they can see is the when they die, and so
Uh,
it's kind of a tragic figure where he knows where he's going to die, and um, that quite I like the story better than it plays out in the movie, but yeah, I definitely like the character.
Well, they constantly flirt with really deep, rich backstory from these characters. You know, you'd think that there
Mhm,
was a novel or a series of novels, excuse me, that would have covered this. You know,
mhm.
and that adds to the authentic. I agree with you too with that. Yeah, it's kind of like, well, that'd be really cool, and you actually get some of that coolness on in the film, not quite fully
Yeah,
as maxed out as it could be, but for the time and what you got, absolutely, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and the wise old man and his
right.
relationship with the Spider Woman is interesting. You would definitely want to know more about that from the past. But yeah, there's a lot of cool little things that happen in the movie that yeah you wish they could expand upon or get a little bit more in detail with. But yeah, the a lot of times the parts of it kind of outweigh the whole of it, you know. I don't know if the whole movie kind of holds everything together as well as some of the parts are.
Yeah, it does. I do think that it is. You know, you kind of come up to the limitations, like you know, if you're, I guess if you could make a criticism of like it doesn't quite know if it wants to be science fiction, maybe, or more fantasy, or somewhere in between. Spoiler alert, a little bit somewhere in between. Um, so that just kind of shows you that it does have some you know
Yeah,
weaker bits. You know,
yeah.
so
And to
some.
speak on
Well, I was just gonna
yeah,
say,
to
yeah,
speak on go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
go
was gonna,
ahead.
yeah. The plot makes you know kind of makes no sense, you know, but Dune kind of didn't make any sense either. But the difference between Dune and this is that Dune pulls it off. Like, you know, obviously, if you're reading the book, um, pulls it off if you're a Lynch fan, and it pulls it off if you are, you know, of the newer, or maybe even the science sci-fi channel. But anyway, go ahead. I interrupted you.
Oh yeah, no worries. See, I might have forgot what my point was. So yeah, we can continue on. But no, yeah. Oh yeah, the at the beginning, whenever the big fight scene where the Slayers show up at the castle to fight the prince and take the princess. The when they kind of envision more of a kind of a Earl Flynn kind of action packed kind of sequence,
Yeah,
but the Slayers they made the costumes for the bad guys, the Slayers, and it's so restrictive in movement that they kind of had to redo the whole thing. So it's maybe not as action packed as it could have been. I think that's maybe why some of them they kind of point their little spears and shoot little laser beams as opposed to really getting into hand to hand combat.
yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, you jogged my memory. I wanted to cover something else, but I lost my point. Um, no, well, just going back to the you know the thing. This has got a lot going on, you know. Like I said, like
Mhm,
you mentioned it, the wise or the I guess he would be like an elf cyclops, I guess, you know, like the last of the elves,
yeah,
you know, that kind of thing.
yeah, right.
But you also have the magician who can, you know, shapeshift and do that. And of course, like the
Mhm,
part that I mentioned a little bit before, is like where they're running or they're rolling back on the fire horses or whatever, you know, the fire mares or whatever they call them.
mhm.
And that kind of doesn't stand the test of time for, you know,
Right.
best blended, you know, thing. It kind of reminds you of like, you know, and if you're watched the 40s or 50s or something and there's a car chase, you know, they're in a car and the scenery is zipping by them, you know, it kind of gives you that kind of feel a little bit. Um
Yeah, yeah. You get what they're trying to bring across, but it kind of takes you out of the movie
yeah.
because you see all
Yeah.
the wire works as so to speak.
Yeah, no, I did read some criticism. Like some people thought that Ken Marshall didn't have, you know, a lot of charisma, but I actually disagree. I thought that he did just fine.
Yeah,
For
yeah, I didn't see that
and
either.
and coming on, and I'm coming from, like where we've seen a spate of these. We've seen a bunch of the '80s ones, and we've covered them in the past couple of years.
Hmm.
So it just kind of like it actually fits in the pantheon of these films that we've seen. Yeah, the plot's really long, and it's just a excuse for a bigger, longer adventure, I suppose.
Hmm.
But it still works because there's other kind of rules of the world, like kind of like the bad
Hmm.
guy. How much harder,
Hmm.
kind of you want to talk about a video game or put it on hard mode.
Hmm.
If this thing teleports to a new location, you know that's really hard to track down.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, I think my the thing that I come away with on this movie is there's a lot of cool setups for things, but they don't always pay off. Like I really like there's the blind wizard that's supposed to be able to bring them to the fortress, and he gets overtaken by this doppelganger, and that's what I remember that scene particularly in my childhood memory of the movie because yeah, the whole black eyes of the that wizard kind of really creeped me out,
right.
and that was really kind of a cool, interesting moment. But they immediately find out that he's the that's the doppelganger, and there's not a whole lot going on there, which I would love to have seen that play out a little bit more, and maybe cause the death of one of the other characters, or just something more than just, oh, okay, well, that happened. Oh, well, now we don't have the wise wizard guy now, so you know and
Yeah,
also,
Aenir. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, near, yeah, but yeah, there's certain moments like that where it could be interesting if they played it out a little bit more, but then they wrap that up pretty quickly and go on to the next thing. It's like, okay. But yeah, the story could have been kind of weaved a little bit better. And so those little moments are cool in and of themselves. But yeah, you wish that there was a little bit more meat on the bones for those particular things.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get such a band of characters that like I said, if it were a little bit longer and maybe I don't know, you don't come out the year of one of the most iconic sci-fi films of all time, just would just dominate. There was just no space for Krull. There was just no air to breathe for it to go. It just tried so hard. There was just so many different things that maybe felt tacked on, I guess, maybe back in the time. I mean, it works for me. It also kind of, oh, by the way, we have two suns and two moons. you know, this is the planet Kroll
Yeah.
that they're on. Like that. And it just kind of like, okay, like I said, I could see the criticism of like, is this magic or is this,
Yeah, and
this,
obviously. Yeah, and obviously they're building this up to be maybe a series of movies because there's hints of the future, where they say that the sun will rule the galaxy, which kind of leans it to the kind of the Dune side of things,
right, right.
or even Star Wars as well. But yeah, there's a very kind of cool fantasy story going on, but then there's all these sci-fi elements as well that are at play.
Titch.
But
Yeah.
one of the things, I was kind of going through the Wikipedia page on it. There's a lot of people that were influenced by this
Hmm.
movie, and they put a little elements of it throughout. Like I think there's references in Family Guy to that, and even in World of Warcraft, I think I was reading where one of the dungeons, if you look at one of these lava pits, you could see the glaive floating in the in the lava as a kind of ode to Krull and World of Warcraft. So that's kind of cool. That everybody's been kind of influenced, and they've kind of put like the glaive in different video games, and made references to it. It lives on, and in fact, I was reading that as early as 2023, J.J. Abrams expressed interest in rebooting this movie,
Really.
and that it continues on. I think the development of it to today. So it's very much alive and a possible reboot. So you might get that reimagined thing that you're thinking about.
Yeah, this to me, Peter Yates is kind of hard because he completely different director, different era, different everything. And you have like a Zack Schneider, right? Who can this loosely the storyline kind of reminds me at least as a franchise, but not being kind of in your face and it being like a yet another kind of, I don't know, take. You had Zack Schneider who moved over to Netflix, and he kind of did a couple of last couple of ones that they released on him from him were kind of like this whole other world, other kind of sci-fi adventure, not quite Star Wars kind of that didn't quite pan out, but that would be interesting to see if something could have come from this, or if it could be done. I unfortunately this kind of has like, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe they could make something. This is already very complicated for what it was back then, anyway. Um, and it just you have magic again. These are things that also are in Dune, but Dune pulls it off, right? Or and has a pedigree with it. This you had the magic, you have aliens, you have other technology going on. So it's kind of like a very very weird, a lot of wink and nods that perhaps if this would have been more successful, some of those questions could have got answered in maybe
Yeah.
a Krull 2, or who knows
Yeah,
who
yeah.
knows.
You kind of wonder about what the life, what their life was like before the beast showed up. You
Right.
wonder what kind of technology happened, post the beast and his fortress, and what was everything pre that. At the when this movie takes place is all kind of mixed up together, and you're not sure. But you don't know how long the beast has been there.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of the movie has a lot of questions that it never answers, which you're okay with, but yeah, it's something that you kind of think about in the back of your mind, or at
Well,
least I do.
well, it even though it has its own fair amount of camp, I guess people would call that. That also is, you can also take that on a positive side of being earnest absurdity. You know what I mean? Like where
Hmm.
it's everybody's serious. Like it's not anybody's goofing around or satire or whatever. And it like I said, it does touch on that campiness a little bit. But it works. It still works. Could any film be sharper? Sure. But for what you get, it still lasts to this day. It is very something unique, and somewhere, was it the greatest thing I've ever seen? No, but for an '80s whack at fantasy and sci-fi, I like it. It kind of grows on
Yeah.
you a little bit. Um,
Yeah, it definitely has this charm. And another thing I find interesting with this movie and the uh the other ones that we saw, like Legend and
mhm,
the Black Cauldron, and this movie, they all kind of end with the surviving people walking off into the field.
right. Yeah. Again,
Oh, kind of interesting. Yeah.
going back to that '80s sensibilities, like where there's a nice
Hmm.
tidy bow. Not always, but for the most
Hmm.
part, you get something. You get satisfaction, or you get some kind of a closure for sure. Um, but I was gonna
Yep.
say,
And,
this is something to watch with somebody who likes either. I'm thinking that if you are, I'm thinking that this will work better for you if you're more of a fantasy person, than sci-fi. Um,
yeah, six.
Sci-fi. This is like one of those more probably advanced ones, like Dune is. Dune is a much more advanced kind of feel and a taste, of things of its own absurdity too. I'm talking about the
Hmm.
book, and I'm talking about Lynch. And
Hmm.
some of that absurdity is rounded off, in modern day Dune, at least. You don't have dog
Mhm.
chairs. You know,
Or
if,
the weird cat contraptions.
yeah, or whatever. Like some of the little bit more very uniquely,
Mhm.
that side of the world. But as much as that, so this one kind of had too much of that, that absurdity that was a little bit
Mhm.
more too much, and people were, that, whereas Dune would have a much more, it was much more pulled in to be commercial, and obviously that was from Villeneuve's mind, his take on it. So Peter Yates. Now, did he do any more of these kind of films? Like, not obviously not Krull
This is
related, but did he ever
yeah.
step
It's only
again into sci-fi or?
no.
Yeah, I didn't think
No,
so.
he's I think this is only fantasy series.
Yeah. Well, and you can see why. I mean,
Yeah.
at least from the standpoint of the box office and how it, kind of did. I do think that 6 out of 10 is probably a fair rating,
Yeah.
for it.
I will I will say the score for this done
Oh
by
yeah, we'll
Jerry
get to it.
Goldsmith has been critics have been very mixed on this movie.
Right.
Mostly, especially when it came out, they were pretty hard on it. But I think everybody universally loves the score to this, and they praise the music to it. And it is very engaging and very fantasy sounding. And well, what does fantasy sound like? Well, the score does, and it's a very heroic kind of sound to it, and it's makes you feel good, and
No, it
it's
works.
definitely a plus side for this movie.
It it
It is to the benefit of this
it
movie.
it lifts it up. I will agree with that. I absolutely agree with that for sure. Yeah, it works very well for this. Very well. I was gonna say we're approaching the. I think we're approaching the caboose here. Like, I do think that
Hmm.
this is one that you need to go at least see at least a couple times. Um, because seeing this after having seen all the movies that we've seen up to this point, I can appreciate this, and I don't have a necessarily a knee jerk to, like, I hate this, or I
Hmm.
can't stand this, or something like that. There are certainly movies that almost flirt with that a little bit, um, but
Hmm.
you grow to have a little bit more patience to let the story play out, and it does a lot. You go to a lot of places, and I like that. I like that. It's a full house. I think that having more is better than not. But who knows where this could have gone, if it were. Who knows? Like, I don't even know. I don't even know that I would want to. Or I assume this is the only cut that there is, that is out there.
Yeah.
Period. I would assume. Yeah, it's definitive, and that's a good thing. I think. Where
Hmm.
there couldn't be a little bit more wiggle room for, like, maybe why it didn't quite. Like with the Black Cauldron, there was a that it was on the books, and then all of a sudden it was not on the books. And then it
Yeah.
got completely changed over, and there was a war there for that. So I don't think this one suffered from that, but that's just another reason for, like, why it just tried to do what it did, and it didn't quite.
But yeah, I think it definitely had
Make it.
a life. Yeah, a life in videotape. I know that. I think it's probably got a lot of its views and
Oh yeah.
fans and their the cult following from it on videotape. Um, I know that cover is pretty iconic and makes you want to pick it up and take a look at it, see what's going on with it with that giant beast head in the
Right.
background, almost mountain like. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, and
very.
it ended up looking like one of those guys from He-Man. I can't remember, but it's very much of the era of the era, like that.
Mhm.
Also, kind of reminded me a little bit of He-Man, a little bit. Um,
Yeah, it has that aspect to
yeah,
it.
like that's why I
Yep.
say, like, when it casts such a wide net of, like, not quite remember berries, but it's not that kind of film.
Hmm.
And you accept it as not that film. Had this been made today, it would have, people would have complained that, well, you're just, they kind of collected up all the things that were really cool in the 80s, and they had Peter Yates do a movie, and you know you have some. I wouldn't, probably, if anything, there's not like one standout, like really really good everybody showed up with their A game. I think maybe B game,
Hmm.
maybe B game for some, but for the most part, there's more here that works than doesn't, and that's a good thing because it's got a lot. Like not everything
Yeah.
lands, but it lands well enough for you to be immersed into the. Like you said, I agree. The score, the scenery, the world building, the thing that I'm attracted to a lot in these things in these films, it
Hmm.
worked very well for that. But I don't do we have any other links or anything else that we wanted to cover
No,
before
no,
we
I know. I know that there was back in the day when videotape was it as big as it was, they would do like the comic book adaptions
oh right
of the movies, and there was definitely one for that Marvel did for this. I don't know, I can't remember if I got that or not. And there was also some video games based off of Krull as well,
right
that came out, but I don't think there was ever any action figures or anything like that. I don't.
no they're
They
they're
use. Mhm.
yeah they might have had some prototypes or something, but I don't think that I don't but
Yeah.
that's not my world either, so I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of times they would wait till after the movie came out before they would make them, unless it was Star Wars, and then
Right.
immediately got action figures.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I think we're coming up here to the end. This one it's just kind of a fun. This is a good movie to watch on Labor Day, like when you want to see something from the '80s, but you haven't maybe seen something, and you want a
Hmm.
completely different way and style of adventure. That's what you'll get for sure. You'll get
Hmm.
that in spades with this. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think definitely check it out if you're into 80s fantasy sci-fi and you hadn't seen this one yet. Definitely check it out, see if it tickles your fancy. Like I said, it's got Haggard in there if you want to see him beardless and running around with Liam Neeson,
Yep, right
being
on cue.
thieves and
Yep.
vagabonds. Check it out.
Absolutely, yeah, and I agree completely. And I think that's going to do it for this week. Check us out next week where we'll be back. But for
Yep.
now,
We're wrapping up fantasy month. We'll be back with you next week with the new month. Try to guess what we're going to cover next month. We don't know yet.
absolutely. I've been Mike.
And I'm Tom.
Peace.
See you.